Welcome to the Tao of Pizza, where we feature top logistics leaders, entrepreneurs, and supply chain innovators and share their inspiring stories with a holistic twist.
Mark Hiddleson here, host of the Tao Pizza podcast, where I talk with top industry innovators in the warehousing, logistics, and supply chain business with a holistic twist. Before introducing today's guest, this episode is brought to you by Specialized Storage Solutions. A lot of people know I've been in the logistics and industry, storage industry for several decades, building solutions that evolve with our clients' growing needs. And what we do is we provide industry-leading warehouse storage solutions nationwide. So basically, if you have a warehouse that needs rack, shelving, carts, conveyors, or mezzanines, we help with the design, engineering, installations, inspections, and repairs to help our clients optimize their logistics operations. And Glenn, it's funny, some people don't even realize that we can actually help with permit acquisition service. Yeah, we even deal with the red tape so you don't have to. We take a holistic look at your entire business supply chain ecosystem to develop the resources for continually improving your operation. To learn more, visit our website at specialracks.com. Give us a call at 707-732-3892. And just for podcast listeners, I'll give you my personal email, markhiddleson@aol.com. Yes, I still use AOL, and yes, I'm proud of it.
You got mail, Mark.
You got mail. So one more shout out, Glenn. Before I introduce you, I want to give a big thank you to Michael McKitka, who's the executive vice president of the Warehousing Education and Research Council. He introduced us at the national conference. WERC, or pronounced WORK, is the only professional organization focused on warehousing, distribution, and fulfillment and its role in the supply chain. WORK helps seasoned professionals and those new to the industry master best practices and establish valuable relationships. Michael was actually one of our first guests, and you can check out that interview as well to learn more. But today, we're joined by Glenn Ecalne. Glenn is a high school logistics and warehousing teacher who brings nearly 2 decades of real-world experience to the classroom. With a career spanning 10 years in retail banking and another 10 in logistics, Glenn equips his students with practical skills not only to land a job, but to thrive in the workplace and start planning for retirement early. His mission? To bridge the gap between education and the workforce, one student at a time. Glenn, welcome to the Tao Pizza.
Thank you, Mark, for having me, man. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. First podcast ever.
First podcast. So welcome
Yes.
to the, you're in education, and I think a lot of your students, podcasts, I always thought podcasts, like, I don't know, podcasts, it's a waste of time. What am I, but when I realize if you're curious about something, one of the reasons I started this is for people who want to start a career to learn more, or, as I get older, I want to help people start businesses or start careers or help. One way I could do that is to be a resource to have the podcast. If somebody's curious about a particular thing, like the McKitka, like you could listen in the interview with Michael McKitka. That's a way to learn more. Or even the people I've interviewed, maybe one of your students wants an introduction, like, hey, I'd like to do a project with this company. Mark Hiddleson knows. So I'm a lay down. If somebody calls and they say, hey, I saw something on the podcast, would you be willing to introduce me? Or would you, if they say that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll help you.
I think it's a great idea. I think you got my wheels turning for since now that I've been teaching it'll be my 9th year now, just getting kids to do a podcast on alumni and their experiences to show kids, and we can just, highlight it throughout the year. You got me thinking.
So thank you for participating. I started by listening. I wouldn't even listen to podcasts, but I had a business coach that would send me podcasts because I said, well, I'm interested in this or I'm interested in that. And he would send me, well, listen to this podcast. They talk about it. There's more information. So it was a way to learn really quickly to where, you'd have to read 13 books, but you could hear 2 experts kind of debating 2 sides of something. So then 2-3 years later, somebody recommended I start my own. So
how long have you been doing the podcast now?
So I started in 2022. I think I've done 60 or 70 interviews. I started out doing one every week. Well, it's a lot of work, and it's not really a lot of work to do it. It takes an hour. We're going to do it, but it's posting it, put it on LinkedIn because we want to do it right, producing it. And there's a cost to do it as well. So, to do four a month versus one. I just thought one was a good pace
Yeah.
to keep it flowing. So my goal is to do 1,000 podcasts. When I was doing one a week, I was like, hey, no problem, 1,000. I'll do one a week. Okay, that's 50 a year. Okay, that's 20 years. Okay. So
Yeah.
my new goal is 100, and I'm more than halfway there. So we'll just see. We'll see
I'm
where.
glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So share a little bit about. I didn't say much about your earlier career, but how did you get into this position, teaching at Patterson High School?
In Patterson, California, yes.
Yeah,
It was just like I sort of just stumbled on it, like a lot of people in supply chain that I talk to at work and just in the industry. But for me, I started off in banking. So I was in college and just needed some ways to make some money and started off as a teller. And I just eventually moved my way up the retail chain. Um, Wanted to get my Series 7 and Series 8, but it's just like that fell through and it just stayed within the management. So I was in management for about 5 years of the almost 10. That was with Wells Fargo Bank. And I was working here in Patterson, helped launch this branch over here in Patterson. And I had one of my customers whose sons I was coaching in track and field because I'm also a track and cross country coach at the high school. But so I've been in the community for a while. And the father happened to be the director of Kohl's Distribution Center here in Patterson. So he heard some good things about what his son had to say about me and interviewed my coworkers that I was working at Wells Fargo without me knowing, asked me to go to lunch. And after the lunch, he asked if I wanted to go into supply chain and work for one small department that he had in his building called Pack to Light. And so I was in the Pack to Light department for a year at Kohl's. The gentleman left, went over to Home Depot, and he brought people that he thought would be a good fit for Home Depot as well, and I was one of them. So I was at Home Depot for about 4 or 5 years. Um, moved have had various positions in receiving, shipping, ICQA, and then eventually started up and launched a building in Patterson, Amazon. It was our first Kiva robotics building on the West Coast, one of their first ones. And so that was an exciting moment for me. And then just like anything else, people just pull each other with. So as they leave companies, would you like to come with me? And so fast forward, 10 years later, how I got into education was they started the program here at Patterson without me. And so it was their first year. It was a grand opening in the room in the building that I'm in right now. And they invited all the industry leaders to the building for the grand opening. And we were like, wow, this is a great environment. I left my business card with the superintendent and the teacher at the time. I said, if you ever want me to talk about warehousing and supply chain logistics with your students so I can give them some real life experience, uh, let me know. And so the superintendent called me a week before school started 9 years ago. And we sat down, had some lunch, and he says at the end of it, how would you like to become a teacher? I'm like, isn't school going to be starting next week? He said yes, but we had an unfortunate incident where the teacher that was teaching logistics stepped down last minute, and we need to fill this void. So I sat down with my wife. We talked about a lot of things, and my wife had been in education for 13 years. She's an elementary school teacher, and so our household is educators now. And she was just like, "Man, I think it'd be a great thing." And for me, I started thinking about some of the barriers that I saw living in Patterson, working in Patterson, having high school students with a whole bunch of energy, just wanting to do well within supply chain, but they just weren't taught the right work ethic. And so we did lose, as far as attrition with high school students, they didn't last very long in industry. So I just wanted to provide them with some information and some knowledge to where they actually get into industry, get the job, keep the job. Because as an ops manager working for Restoration Hardware and Amazon at the time, I was part of the hiring process. And so you would have these, again, energetic young people that, they had the best intentions, but they just didn't know how to interview,
yeah,
and you would get them in, teach them how to interview, teach them the STAR method, talk to them about 401k and retirement. Because our demographics that we serve here in Patterson is 100% free and reduced. I think all of California is, but prior to that, it was 80% free and reduced. And so you have a lot of children with migrant workers, people that have been gentrified from the Bay Area, first generation Americans, where like me, I'm a first generation American. Nobody ever talked to me about a 401k or retirement. I learned that through the banking industry. And so I just basically just trying to teach what I know through my experience in banking and through supply chain. And that's pretty much what I do every day now. And it's been a great experience so far.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you were working for, was it Kohl's at the time? Which, or was Amazon did the Kiva, that you were working for Amazon?
Kiva Robotics. Yeah.
And
Oh, and then after Amazon, I went to Restoration Hardware. I got pulled over from my ops manager that was at Home Depot, launched a brand new building. So I had a privilege to open three brand new buildings in the Central Valley. Home Depot's Rapid Deployment Center, one of Amazon's first Kiva buildings, and then Restoration Hardware's 1.5 million square foot warehouse here in Patterson also.
yeah,
So
you got my juices flowing. There's thing I want to put a placeholder on the Kiva because I've got a little bit of experience with Kiva, and but the fact of how people move around, relationships are so important. I mean, that's
yes,
uh one of our pastor that I've quoted a lot has said, life is short, eternity is real, and relationships matter most. I mean, I've seen it play
yeah,
out so many different ways in business, whether it's support or a new job or your career, and teams move. And it's just, when you open new buildings, you kind of go through some pain, right? Like it's not
yes,
just pain. You go through that with somebody. It's like, a lot of people are great when things are going good, but what happens when my old boss used to say the fertilizer hits the
it's
ventilator?
a fan.
It's the shit hits the
Yeah,
fan. How are these
yes.
guys perform? People bring those A players with them. So congratulations on that. And being recruited, I'm gonna have to go hang out at the bank. I always get impatient with the bank. I should slow down and talk to the people working at the bank. Uh,
Right.
so that is awesome. And but the piece I wanted to dive into a little deeper is share a little bit more about what you mean by the STAR method for interviewing, and then what you said about uh, I forget the word you used, but there's a revolving door with younger employees. It's just they
Oh,
don't
the attrition rate.
attrition
Yeah.
rate. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
share a little bit about
Yeah.
the STAR method of interviewing, and then once you get the job, what are some of the principles about keeping the job?
So when the way I run my course is I run it like I'm running a business. And so the students, that's the situation that they are sort of like, that's the baseline when we start out the year. This is not your normal class. I am really working with you as an individual and as a group to try to mold you to the expectations of industry. Because that's like the biggest piece, right? So you have somebody that has all this energy, but don't know the energy is all displaced. Like, where do I focus this energy on? And so the first thing they have to do is get their foot in the door. And that foot in the door is just being able to interview and speak, being able to speak to the most important person that they should know how to speak about, which is themselves. Getting them comfortable with that. And the method that we use is a STAR method, which is a situation, task, action, and result. So a lot of the questions that companies ask now, they're behavioral questions. So tell me about a time where you ran into, disagreed with a coworker. And a lot of companies, they'll have like a checklist that reads, did they talk about a situation? What was the task at hand? What action did you take? And what was the result? And if you can practice that and get these kids to be confident in their scenarios that they face in our classroom, which is a full functioning warehouse, it's 10,000 square feet. We have true customers and teachers that are across the district. We work with nurses, teachers, nurse supplies, school supplies. And now we have a cosmetology department that actually started up in our campus. So we now deliver cosmetology products on our campus. So they can work on their customer service skills, articulating their words, getting on, a simple radio, like how to speak on a radio, use jargon like 10-4, stuff like that.
Yeah,
That normal,
grape
normal,
ape. Yeah, grape ape is a
yes,
chocolate lizard.
exactly.
Yeah, before.
But just getting them like engulfed in the whole warehousing industry, I think we as teachers. There's three of us. There's Larry Garcia that does the forklifting. There's Dave Dine that does the commercial truck driving, and then myself, I do the introduction to logistics and the supply chain, which is two classes. So I think we did do a good job in sort of like molding these kids and preparing them for the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I toured that facility with work that I mentioned with Michael McKitka. We used to do tours, and Larry, I met Larry. Actually, he was a guest. I had him scheduled. I owe Larry an online. I was scheduled. We were scheduled to do an interview. This is when I first started because I'd known about it. I was really impressed when I went there. I was like, wow, this program. This was years ago. I think it had to be 8 years ago. But I met Larry.
Okay.
We toured the Port of Oakland. This one was either Restoration Hardware or Granger, one of the big ones in Patterson, big DC.
Yes.
But before that, we toured your facility. It was an actual working warehouse. But I had some scheduling conflicts. It was my wife had made some plans, and it's like happy wife, happy life. And so
Yes,
I rescheduled
exactly.
with Larry, and then we never made it back on the schedule because once school starts and everything else like that, there's kind of a time crunch. But this is impressive, and I was there. Judy Jardine is a friend of mine. She's been in the industry for years, and she was on that tour. She was grilling these students. I'm like, Judy, give these guys a break. They're 17, 18 years old.
No, great. You got to grill them. You got to prepare them. You got to.
And they
Yeah.
nailed it. I
Yeah.
was shocked. I'm like, she's asking tough questions. She was giving them situational questions, kind of like, okay, what do you do if
Mhm.
something ships and you're looking for the package slip and it's not there, or somebody didn't sign for it, or proof of
Yeah.
delivery. She had all these scenarios, like everything that can go wrong.
Oh no, our guys are prepared. Our guys are prepared.
They were
Yeah.
prepared. So share a
Yeah.
little bit because that program's evolved since then. At that point, you were only doing the logistics for the school with internal within the school. So share a little bit about how.
8 years ago, 8 years ago, it would have been we would have been working with a nonprofit organization called First Books, and so we were responsible for their deliveries nationwide. And so the um, uh, great relationship with them, but they decided to centralize their distribution to one location in Kansas. And so they stopped using programs like ours. They used multiple CTE programs. One was in Pennsylvania, ours, another one in Florida, I believe. But they decided to go centralized. And so the superintendent at the time asked me, "What do you think we should do now? We don't have any work for these kids to do." And so we begged the question, well, how do you guys buy your school supplies? And it was mentioned that, oh, Creekside over here orders from Amazon, uh, Las Palmas orders from Walmart, there's somebody else from Costco. I was like, well, we're not leveraging our purchasing power. We can purchase a lot of things in bulk and get these vendors to like drop their prices for us because we're buying in bulk. And so I think our first year, don't quote me on this, we saved a little over $25,000 on school supplies just by, buying in bulk and using our program to distribute throughout the district. And so we've kept that sort of model since. Yeah.
And then you're adding other things because it's like that's what
Yes.
I think that's one of the things about warehousing and logistics that a lot of people, if you're not in the business, you don't understand is that most places don't warehouse their own stuff. There's usually a
Right.
third party. Some of the bigger companies do, but even the bigger companies, they outsource a lot of their warehousing just because it's the cost. Like you said, I mean, you got
Yes. That's not a moneymaker. Yeah, we are the bleeders.
yeah, yeah. And one of the things that's kept us busy over the years is companies like, well, we're going to outsource it, so they send it to a 3PL. So we do a lot of work with 3PLs, and then they go, well, 3PLs cost too much. We're bringing it in house, and they do it for 3 to 5 years in house, and this is costing us too much money. We want to send it back. So there is this.
I would love to invite you back, Mark, because like you said 8 years ago, we implemented a program, part of our program where our supply chain, which is our second group, they either get yellow belt certified or green belt Lean Six Sigma certified, depending on how many times they revolve through the class. But every year, have you ever gone to MHI's ProMat and Modex
So I usually
conference?
go every year. This is the first year in about 6 or 7 years. I didn't go in the
Okay.
pandemic year, but almost every year for the past 10 years, I've been to both. I go to Modex in Atlanta and
Okay.
Promat in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll see you in Atlanta this year.
Atlanta, I will
Yeah,
definitely be there, so we'll
yeah,
connect. Yeah, and I would love to go
yeah.
back to the school. I will go back. I'll talk to the kids. I think you and we can collaborate on scheduling another tour through work. And Michael, I think Michael would help us
Yes.
set
I
something
think
up.
yeah, we do have that in the pipeline.
Yeah,
And so I was talking to some individuals there, and they want to actually have another session in Patterson, and then we can tour some of the facilities out in our area. Maybe your facility
yeah.
in
Well, we'll
Napa.
be. I'll definitely be willing to be involved because it's. I've been involved in work since I was the president of the local council from the time I was like 32 to 42. And I was thinking back, I was like, man, I was 32 years old. I was too young
Wow.
to have that position. But when I looked into work, that's what they do. They help people that are new. I was new in the business, so I was just like I wanted to learn as much about warehousing as I could. And to me, the best way to
Right.
do that is to tour facilities and ask the people when they're running the facility, how do you do it this way? How do you do it that way? And it's mostly people attending those tours. They're not in the business of the place we're touring, but there were
Right.
always takeaways because I mean, you're trying to ship boxes from point A to point B or pallets or individual items. And there's a lot of similarities it could be totally different industries like automotive and food. And there's different rules for both, but they both
Right.
share a lot of the same principles.
Yeah, we if you would be I think you would be impressed, Flip. Every year we go to Modex and Promat, and so our supply chain kids, they have a responsibility to bring back a new um, improved process from what they learned through their Six Sigma certification. So it's all about efficiency. So how do you see a certain state? So what you saw 8 years ago is definitely not what you're going to see when you come back. You're going to be like, this is a totally different warehouse. And so
That
can't
is
wait to
awesome.
have you guys over there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, share a little bit about how the lessons you learned in business and banking have translated into success in the classroom.
I think the biggest key is the feedback that I get from the students is that the examples that I use. So real life scenarios, people losing their homes. When I would open accounts when I was a banker, how I would train every person that would come through, especially young people, how to use a check register and how to create a budget. And so when they graduate, they say teaching is a thankless job, right? And so when you're in the moment and you're teaching these kids, it almost seems as if like information is just flying. I mean, we were all in a high school at one point, and just like, what are we? But the reward is later. The reward is later. It's definitely later when they come back and say, "I just bought my first house. I didn't put myself on a car payment. I bought my first car with cash." Or I have kids that have graduated 8 years ago. I have almost six digits in my 401k. I'm like thinking, man, I should have started earlier. Uh,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right? Because the way I teach them once they get the job, I sort of like you can either take my personal finance class and then my introduction to logistics or supply chain. But I do inject some of my personal finance in my supply chain logistics because they need it. They need that sort of like knowledge. But I teach the kids put at least 15 to 20% on your 401k right off the bat. You haven't developed your behaviors on how a full-time paycheck works. And if you want this to be your career, as your salary starts to increase, your mindset's already 15 and 20%. It's already defaulted. So there is an adjustment of where the hardest thing to do, I tell them is, you're going to say, oh, I'm going to do it later. And then life happens. And then you're not going to do the 15 to 20%. But if you start off right out of high school and you're getting the tuition reimbursement to go to college and you're already putting 15, 20%, those behaviors are ingrained in you. You can't make that change. You can even take less out later on if you want, but nobody's ever going to do that. You're
Yeah.
going to live your life on a paycheck based off of 15 to 20% into your 401k, and you're already winning. You don't even know. I always tell my kids, I'm gonna be 6 feet deep by the time you reap the rewards of exponential gains
Yeah.
of your 401k. But just come visit me and say thank you. So
Yeah.
I'll be gone though.
Yeah. Buy me a Cadillac. No, I think that goes into the motivation to stick around for them too. Like when you're invested, and a lot of companies, like the first 401k. I forget if it was even called a 401k. It was something like that, but there was a company match. And so they would match 50% of what you put in up to 6%. So I automatically was like, well, I'm putting 6%. So they were matching it with three. So I had nine. I'm like, that's a no
Right.
brainer because on the 3% I'm
Yeah.
doubling and it's non-taxable. And I had known those principles. I was 27 when I started doing that. I probably learned about it when I was 18. Like, if it's that I learned about it,
Right,
like,
right, right,
that
right.
I heard it, but I was 27 before I actually started doing the behavior. And there's a difference between a friend of mine who was in the Air Force used to say, you know what the difference between thinking and knowing is? And I was like, no. And he said, knowing is doing. It's like, yeah, I know I should put 10%. I know that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you know it, it means you're already doing that.
Yeah.
So you learned that kind of transferred. You saw something in the banking industry, and I think that's a missing. Uh, I'm shocked at how many people don't. I mean, we're not taught that in high school. I mean,
Yeah. No.
I learned it in
No.
business or from other mentors.
Mhm.
Uh, so who
In
were some?
2009 is when I left banking.
Yeah,
So it was a big pivotal point in US economy and a housing market crash. So I had a lot of instances of stories to share with my students of, people that are hardworking and they happen to lose their home based off of a bad, a 5-1 arm or a 3-1 arm, and they didn't understand like your payment's going to blow up.
right.
Like after that 5 years is done. And if the interest rates aren't in your favor, then we're in trouble. And
Yeah,
so like teaching those little nuances of somebody that's coming out of high school, and I'm not trying to scare them, but more of like educate them in like these are some scenarios that you will face in life that you're going to have to make a decision. A 15-year loan, if you can afford it, go on a 15-year loan. And if you purchase at 25, your house is going to be paid off at 40, and then you have no mortgage. Like why would you put yourself on a 30 if it's to your advantage to do it? Like all these little behaviors, I think in the long run are going to benefit these kids so much that they just don't understand just yet because it's not the focus right now. But I mean, if you know and you do, uh, you'll get it. You'll get it, and you'll reach a handful of kids that have already implemented a 15-20% contribution. They understand what the match is. They have ambitions to go to college, but they don't have the means, so they have to work and save money. So they leverage the companies that we work with. About more than like 9 out of 10 companies that we work with offer tuition reimbursement. And
so
so
share
it's
more about
nice.
that because I've been to a lot of industry events where they say uh, too many people, I don't know, I'm going to paraphrase it the wrong way, but too many people are going to college, getting a general degree, and they're coming in the workforce. They don't have specialized training. But it's
Yeah.
actually a better model that if you can go right out of high school with some kind of specialized training, get a job,
Mhm.
then if you've worked for a company for a year or 2 years and you're moving up in leadership, they'll pay for your education, right?
Yeah.
I think it's
Yes.
a great
And
way rather
so,
than,
yeah, we have students that, they go into entry level position, and they, I want to be a computer programmer. I want to study computer science. And these companies, because it falls under you know, you can actually be a programmer for one of these large Fortune 500 companies, they'll pay for it. It's and because it could be applied to supply chain and logistics and warehousing. You can be I mean, I hired when I was in ICQA, we hired a computer programmer to sort of like work with our counts. So create specified accounts so we can lower our DPMO in our buildings. And so he would create a specified count where any SKU that was touched by inbound within a 24-hour period, my ICQA guys would touch it. Or any SKU that was touched by an outbound, because errors are created by they're human errors, right? And
yeah.
so we created these counts and our DPMO dropped and we were like one of the top ones in the network within Amazon and everything was gravy. But going back to that point, like you can choose so many different careers that all we're trying to do is educate these students. Like you can go into mechanical engineering, you can go into industrial engineering for process improvement, you can go into, architecture and or construction management and be part of building these 1.5 million square foot facilities. So engineering, um, Amazon doesn't discriminate. They if you want to be a nurse, you can get tuition reimbursement to get your nursing degree. And so there are some companies that don't necessarily have, it doesn't have to benefit the company. We just have to seek them out and try to find the right avenue for our students.
That's awesome. And you mentioned being a teacher is hard. So both my parents, my mom was a teacher for 50 years, uh, mostly elementary. She was like third, fourth, fifth grade. And I've had her on the podcast. It was awesome. She's always been passionate about helping people learn. She uses music a lot, English as a second language, because I grew up in Ripon, which is,
Okay.
way far away from Patterson, right? It's like
No.
35 miles, but it's the same culture. And my mom taught there. So she was really good at, she had a passion for teaching people with English as a second language. She used music, activities ever. So she was really passionate. And then my dad was in business. My dad was a lot like you. He had a career in sales, a career in computer sales, and he actually sold pants back in the day, back in the
Really?
kind of like Hagar. It was a company called Farah, and I never liked it because I wanted to wear Levi's and because I wanted to wear popular stuff. My dad worked
The
for Farrah.
501s?
I'm like, I'm not going to wear Farah. I'm like, what people are going to say? But he went into teaching later in his career, and he actually taught a similar. He taught a class on entrepreneurship, and
Oh, nice.
at a place called San Lorenzo High School. I forget the exact name of the program, but it had to deal with being an entrepreneur. So that
Nice.
podcast was a lot of fun with my dad, and he shared some of the similar things that you were talking about: being accountable, integrity, being your word,
Yeah.
showing up, being on time.
Yeah.
Uh, but they were passionate. But I can see, I mean, even in business or coaching or anything, it's like, how do you know when you've gotten through? Like you see the glazed
Yeah.
over look, you did this body language. And so so give us an example, like share a success story where, it have like said the reward happens 8 years later, right?
Um, we have multiple like ops managers in industry now. And so Jaime Chavez, for example, he took the route where he went straight to Stanislaus State to major in supply chain logistics, did his 4 years, got out of industry, went to our job fair, made some connections, networked. Just like you said, networking is important. And then landed a job with JB Hunt, which, it's one of the largest transportation companies in the United States.
Yeah.
And now he manages an outfit in Colorado. They paid for his moving expenses, reimbursed from that. So he's been there for the last little over a year now. So that's just one. And then we have, here locally, we have Leah Sheets took a different route. She decided to, go the JUCO route. Um, they're paying, CVS is paying for her college education right now. I think she's like 19 units away from her bachelor's degree. And she's an area manager for ICQA for them,
For
um,
CVS.
for CVS
So CVS they
distribution.
were one of the first ones to move to Patterson. They were there before Amazon.
Yes.
We did
Yeah, it was
projects for them back in the day.
Long's drugs back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. It was Bonds. It
Yeah.
used to be in Lathrop. I was there actually when they moved from Lathrop, from Darcy Parkway in Lathrop to they built the new one. So I've been around too long. 30 years is a long time.
Good time,
Yeah,
man. It's a good time.
it is. It's a lot of fun. So what about Sean? Is it Sean Chowdhury?
Sean Chowdhury. So he's now working in HR for Granger. And
Okay.
so he started off as an entry level worker, general warehouse associate, and then he sort of just like got cross trained in all the departments, and now he's working in HR. And so he's getting his bachelor's degree from Arizona State University in supply chain management, which is a 100% online program, and Granger's assisting with the payments on that.
That
So
is
so
really cool. I
yeah.
love that because I'm a big fan of education. Uh, took me 8 years to get my college degree, but the reason was is I was working full time. And so people always laugh. They joke around like, "Yeah, it took you 8 years." But I go, "Yeah, after 8 years, though, I had a 4 year degree, but I also had 8 years of work experience."
Yeah.
And
Plus, you had
so,
no debt.
yeah, and so, I mean, I did. I actually, when I got married, I was 27. I owed like $3,700 on a student loan. I'll never forget it because the payments were like $60 a month, and we paid it off before we bought our house because we needed that extra $60 to pay the mortgage, and we needed it to qualify. Um, but yeah, that's not that much after 8 years. Uh, so I love, and so see, your program solves a lot of the challenges that I think people complain about in the industry. So what other, I only know there's one other something similar in Bakersfield. Are there any other similar programs in
Uh,
California?
s- so Bakersfield and Fresno actually came to visit us to start their programming. So we were able to help them get their programs launched, get some ideas. And so we're still in contact with Bakersfield. Mr. Moretti's out there. And so Fresno has that same sort of program as well.
So do you have
And
any
so
ideas or you have a passion? Like, shouldn't this be spreading like wildfire?
it should. And I think it's a great, especially in the large logistical hubs like Chicago, Atlanta, like these programs, I'm not sure how prevalent they are, but uh, I believe we are one of the only ones that have all three facets. And so we do forklifts, like I said, forklift certification, the warehousing 2 years, and then our commercial truck driving program. And so that program is unique also where our district pays for our students Class A licensing after they graduate from high school. So we prep them for the pre-trip inspection, everything that's going to be asked of them when they actually take their behind the wheel. But once they get their permit, uh, we actually pay if they want to pursue to get their Class A. We actually pay for them, so they walk away with a Class A for free.
And you can make a great living. And that's
Yes.
another structural thing about the
Hmm.
what is it? There's so many truck drivers just because of the age and the number of people are that like so many
That are
truck drivers
retiring.
age out. And then there's less people to fill those jobs. But there's an even bigger
Mhm.
thing. Like when I was 16, the day I turned 16, I was in line at the DMV. I got my license that day. My mom let me take it to
Yes,
all my friends.
that's not happening now.
No, it's like 50%. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm in my 50s and I've got everyone got their license. I was 16. You were down there, unless
Yes.
there was some
That
reason.
day, you're like that old Mermaids commercial, like open, 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 like waiting for that door to come crack open. You're
Exactly.
taking the test.
Yeah, but now like it's 50% with some huge number, like 50% of people don't have their license by the time they're 18. So the pool that compounds the problem that there's not as many people in that age group to
Right.
start with, but only half of them have their license. So there's going to be a shortage of drivers. There already is a shortage of drivers.
Yes, there is a driver shortage, and Dave Dine, who teaches the class, he has a nonprofit called Next Gen. So shout out to Dave Dine and Next Gen that's trying to attack that issue specifically. Trying to get young people interested in the trucking industry, get them motivated, and I think Dave is doing a great job. So
Yeah, it's good because it's a great career, especially when you're young. And
right.
companies like Hunt, was that the one you mentioned? The big
JB Hunt,
JB
yes,
Hunt,
JB Hunt.
and that's one of the biggest ones. But that's a great career, and there's so many things. It's not just driving a truck. If they pay for you to go to school, I mean, there's so many different
Mhm.
aspects of that industry. Um,
We have a handful of owner operators now that have graduated from our program that have their own businesses. We Walmart actually hired um, their youngest driver to go interstate driver from Patterson High, and
wow.
so he's making I think uh, over $120,000 a year. He just turned 21. I'm like, what is going on? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, you put
Yeah,
15% of that away, that's 18,000 bucks a year. It doesn't take long before
we're winning.
that starts adding up.
We're
Yeah.
winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are some great success stories. I'd love to talk to Dave too, and we'll put a link to his LinkedIn account on the show notes, and I'll make sure his
Yes.
LinkedIn profile. And then I'd love an introduction as well. We can talk about that after. But share a
Most
little
definitely.
bit. Did you have either mentors or situations that you encountered personally that really motivated you to make a difference and pursue your
Yeah, I
career?
think the support that I had, Larry Garcia and Dave Dine had been in education prior to me walking into that, and they really like helped me get past some of my mental block. And so there were times where like, what did I do? Like I took a big cut. I'm like pulling the last of my hairs out and
That's what
stretching things
happened.
out. Yeah. But Yeah, they really got me through. And then my wife also being in education for that long, they're really the ones that motivated me and stick with it. And then I still am in contact with my high school track coach. He really inspired me, just talking about, athletics and how that translates hard work. It's the basics of which should be taught. I think it's a big piece that's missing. Like hard work will always survive. Like you just
Yeah,
put your head down. What you alluded to earlier at the beginning of the podcast, which your network of people, surround yourself with people that are positive, that are going to get you to where you want to go, and just try to sort of trim the fat. You run into somebody that is going to pull you down. You gotta make that decision and say, this is not for me, kind of thing, and like not be rude about it, but like
yeah,
work your way through this mess
yeah,
we call life, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's what we teach.
So Larry and Dave, and then how about being a first generation America? Are there things about your background and growing up that motivate you?
Um, my dad, he joined the United States Navy during the Vietnam War. And so the United States was recruiting in the Philippines. So he actually joined the US Navy in the Philippines. Um, and he was a careerman. So he stayed in the US Navy for 20 years. He was a machinist mate, and then his career off with the Navy as a machinist mate. And he worked in the tech industry because we grew up in Milpitas. So he worked for Seagate, the hard drive maker, in their wafer fabrication, until he retired. But just watching my parents now that I'm older now and understanding the dynamics of um, us living in America. So we lived in Bremerton, Washington, Honolulu, Hawaii, Alameda. So we had all these stops. But what I remember about my parents was that we weren't a well-to-do family. A blue collar worker, entry level positions on the manufacturing lines, testing wafers and stuff like that. And so I talk about that with my students, and I think the students make that sort of like connection because you know it's almost the same thing, which is a different industry. Like you have migrant workers, right, that are working in the fields. It's not a glorified job. It's hard work. And so like just being in sort of like the same sort of environment and being able to speak to them about that. That's really just been my drive as an educator is try to get these guys to like, hey, I might not be the brightest crayon in the Crayola box, but I do have some experiences that can help you out from a long-term standpoint. Um, and so that's pretty much how I present it to
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
And that's good. I mean, we need more gifted teachers. My daughter she just got her teaching credential this year, so she's going to be a teacher. So I'm super proud. I'm
Congrats.
like,
Yes.
me, it's the greatest profession. I mean, it's what we need. It's like that's what's affecting future generations. So thank you for doing your part.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You're welcome.
yeah, I love having you
All
on.
we can do is try, Mark. All we can do is try, man.
Yeah, and like I
Yeah.
said, we want to be a good partner, industry partner. I love to speak with the kids. I'll help you with the upcoming tours. Um, what else? And I'm going to put the video. We were playing with technology earlier, trying to see if we could
Yes.
get that video. I want to put a link because there's about a 3 minute video uh, about your program that we'll put a link to it in the show notes, and I'll post it on LinkedIn when I post this interview. Um, but share something. We only have a few minutes left. Is there any new technology that you're using? I like to ask people. It could be anything simple. Like we started using Slack a couple of years ago for
So
project management. So what?
yeah, right now we're dabbling in educating the kids with drone technology,
Oh,
believe it or not. Yes. And so CVS is one of our 28 industry partners. We have 28 now. It's weird for me to actually say that because we started off with like five.
yeah,
Now we're up to 28. And so when we have our job fair at the end of the year, like all these companies are there trying to hire our students. But so drone technology, CVS, they said that they were doing pilots in some of their network buildings for inventory control. So if you can imagine, like over 1 million square foot warehouse, and you need to do an inventory spot check on a location across the building. Well, you're going to get somebody on a turret. It's going to, those things aren't fast. They're like slowly going. You're paying somebody to drive over there where you can just simply get if it's a full case pallets, get somebody to drive over there, have the drone fly over the pallet, do your simple count, and then you got your number right there versus using all these other methods. And so what's nice is that the program that we're looking into is they'll also get FAA certified. And so if they wanted to start a business or something like that with photography or something like that, they can do that as well. But just getting
Yeah.
them to understand that whole piece of it.
Wow. So drone technology, and that's probably been because I've heard of drone technology even being tested out for last mile deliveries, like
Yeah.
drone.
So when I was working for Amazon, that was one of their biggest things. Like they didn't do it in the United States. They started off in Canada, but I don't think it. I think they were trying to do it where within a 10-mile radius of a distribution center, they'd be able to make deliveries, but I don't think that ever transpired.
Yeah. No, it was like I love going to industry events because you hear this stuff. You're imagining packages getting dropped on people or what, like all the things that could go wrong. You're like, wow, but they're really trying to do it.
Yeah.
So that brings me back. I wanted to shelf the Kiva. So you were involved in the Kiva project for
Yes.
Amazon. The only reason I know about Kiva, one of my best clients, David Smith, he was like my second or third podcast interview. I had him on here because he was with Toys R Us, and Toys R Us had a Kiva uh,
Oh, okay.
system. And there were some interesting things that went on between Amazon and Toys R Us. I'll let everyone Google it to see what happened in
Oh,
2012.
I'm gonna look at that.
But Amazon bought Kiva. So Kiva is a
Yes.
technology. They're little, I call them robots. I think it's a good word for it right now, but it'll pick up the shelving
Right.
unit and bring it to the picker, right? So you have
Exactly.
all these robots that are basically picking up a shelving unit and delivering it to like a
Bring it.
pick station, pack out station, whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it. And they're really cool. And
Yes.
it's kind of basic technology.
Yeah. They're
Uh,
actually on a grid system and everything. It reads, they call them fiducials on the floor. And so they'll work in a sort of like a grid pattern.
so
Um,
what was your
uh,
involvement in that? I mean, because David got another position at Owens and Minor because they were using Kiva, but everyone kind of phased out Kiva because Amazon bought it. And then when they bought it, they said, hey, look, we're only going to support this for X number of years. I forget what it was, but so I've helped
well,
remove
being
two Kiva systems. That's how I know.
remove. Oh,
Yeah. Well, because they quit supporting it. And
oh,
so
okay.
they just look, and now there's a lot. And when Kiva came out, they were the first one that I know of. They were the first ones to have that.
There's so many now.
Then and when you go to ProMat, that's when you go to ProMat,
Yes.
everybody has it's just a little square with wheels that
Right.
takes a shelving unit and moves it into place. So what was your experience on the install? Uh,
It was challenging at times. We had to come up with a solution where the Kiva robotics actually moved pretty fast, and so from a efficiency standpoint, it's great because like there's a heat model. The next PS6 comes out, and all the shelving units they sort of like morph out and they go outside of the perimeter, so that the travel time's not as long. And so it's ever evolving. It's an ever depending on the algorithms, an ever evolving system. But the problem that we were having was that product was actually falling off of the shelves when they would pivot. So they would stop and they would fall off. And so we found out that there was like thousands of dollars of man hours that were being spent to retrieve product and try to figure out its location. So um, I think our solution was just put like an elastic band up in the front and sort of solve the issue. But it was a headache at the beginning because our DPMO was not good. We were losing a lot of product.
yeah, and it's dangerous. You look at those other things, it is moving fast, and like you have to be outside of that grid because like if you're in there, you're in arm's way.
Yeah.
Those shelving, it's like they could move any direction at any time.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's pretty exciting, but it's fun to watch. So I'll have to put a Kiva video too, or I'll have to get a robotics sponsor. We'll put their video on the show notes because this is a cool thing for if you're interested in
Yeah.
this business. I also, when you bring up your job fair, I got to give a shout out to Sierra Pacific, Bertie Rodriguez,
Oh yes. Birdie, yes.
Abigail Powers. Oh, they're both there on a regular basis. I've meant to go to that job fair several times. When is it? What time of year? Do you have more than one?
No, it's just one at the end of the year. So it's usually around April.
April.
Yeah.
So I'll be on the lookout for the job fair. And then what's the best way or what would be the ideal thing for you if somebody hears this podcast, they want to learn more or they want to start their own program? What's a great place to start?
You can email me directly. It's and then Ecalne, Ecalne at patterson.k12.ca.us, and you can just post a link on there, or you can go to Patterson Joint Unified School District's website, and the link to the video should be on there as well, and then a description of all of our programs and what we offer to our students.
So I'll make sure that's on the show notes. We'll have your email, your LinkedIn profile, the Patterson School District, and we'll get the specific link that's about your program, and we'll put it right on the show notes. Man, this has been awesome. I can't believe we're already out of time.
I know. I'm like, what?
This is it's been a pleasure having you. I can't wait to learn more, be involved more, but I want to be the first to thank you for
thank you for having me. Yeah. It's been a great first time experience. I'm not afraid to do another one after.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Tao of Pizza podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.